Hi guys, this is me Osama Gaza. Welcome to another tutorial, and in today's video we'll be actually discussing one of the most important things in editing in general. So if in my opinion not the most important one, because you don't want to spend all this time editing and trying to come up with superior transitions and effects in your video and end up just having like shitty quality or something. So today we'll be talking about the highest possible quality you can use to export your work from Adobe Premiere Pro. Alright, so the way I do it, first of all, just let's press Command and M, or you can go to File and choose Export. It's pretty much the same. Then what are we exactly going to be doing here? Alright, so first of all, the format is definitely not QuickTime. I personally fell to this mistake in the beginning when I started learning how to edit. I was exporting in a QuickTime format, which was horrible because it always came up really bad. So the first step will be definitely changing the QuickTime format to the H.264. This is like the standard for high quality exporting setting in Adobe Premiere Pro. Then if you don't really have time to customize your exporting settings, you can just go through all these presets and choose among them. You have like the YouTube 720 frames per second. Like you have a lot of options here. You can definitely explore that. But today I'm just trying to show you how to come up with the highest possible quality in Adobe Premiere Pro. Alright, so after we change the format from QuickTime to the H.264 codec settings, we can go to the output name. You can just rename your file and choose where you want to save it. That's pretty much how it's done. Alright, then this is the part where we're actually going to be changing a lot of stuff here. Okay, so first of all, if it was checked or blocked like this, don't panic, just uncheck it and you can change it the way you want. Alright, so first of all, we're going to set back the frame rate to 23.976 or 24 frames per second, and the fill order must be progressive. And the most important thing here, guys, is first of all, you have to change the profile to high instead of main. So high pretty much stands for the highest possible performance. Main is more for like general use. If you're not really into like some big project or anything, you just want to come up with something okay or average to show to your client or something. Baseline fits more for older mobile devices. If you're just trying to export a small file to download on your mobile device or even an older computer device, you can use the baseline. But the quality is really bad, guys. Like I don't recommend it at all. All right. So now, by the way, guys, I forgot to tell you what I'm trying to show you now is the highest possible quality. So you can think of it as a 4K exporting settings. Okay. So after we set the profile setting to high, the level here is 5.2 instead of 5 or 4.1. And what is level? You can think of level as the responsive value to the resolution. So as you guys can see here, once it changed the level to 5.2, two things happened here. First of all, the frame rate changed to 59.94, almost 60 frames per second, but we don't need that, so we can change it back to 24 frames per second. And the width and height changed in order to respond to the new level we just set. So let's, for example, say that this is the resolution we're trying to come up with, 3840 by 2160. And let's try a smaller level, let's say 3.2 or something. One of two things will happen. One, you might get an error message that your level doesn't match the resolution, the aimed resolution. Or the other thing, which is most commonly happening to everyone, is that you'll get this pixelated effect. So let me drop it down more. See, it gets pixelated, the quality drops like crazy, and is not performing well. And this is pretty much how it works. The more level you set, the higher resolution you can get from Adobe Premiere Pro and vice versa. Alright, so now let's just turn it back to 5.2, highest performance rate, and turn back the frame rate to 24 frames per second. Okay, so the following part is actually the most important part here because it talks about the compression or the CBR. First of all, if it's anything else but CBR, try to switch it back to CBR. Okay, CBR basically is the compression rate, and for those who are more into computer science may hear me now and say, why the hell would I like to compress my video if I'm actually trying to come up with the highest possible quality? Yes, that's actually true. But the thing is, if you did not compress your video just a little bit, you're gonna end up having like an extremely large file that you cannot export. Accordingly, you cannot show your work to anyone. So there must be some compression rate in order to maintain a reasonable file size and to be able to, export your work, especially if you're actually using an older computer like myself. It gets really hard on Adobe Premiere Pro to encode the data and export everything the way you want it. So at some point I have to drop the quality, which is not really cool for the viewers, but sometimes we have to do this. Alright, so first of all, you have to change it back to CBR. Alright, after that we have to increase the target bitrate a little bit in order to match the settings we had in here. So as I previously mentioned, what we're trying to come up with here is a 4K quality, right? So this value has to be optimal in order to match the other settings. And to be honest with you guys, I figured this optimal value after a couple times of just playing a little bit around with this slider, and the optimal value for me was 100. So I'm gonna set it to 100. Then of course we don't want to check the keyframe distance. We don't want to cut any frames from our video. Alright, so the final step here, guys, will be actually checking this box here, use maximum render quality. And what that does is that it tells Adobe Premiere Pro if the raw footage was filmed in different environments. Like for example, part of it was shot with a 1920 by 1080 resolution and another part was shot with a 4K camera. By checking this box, we're trying to tell Adobe Premiere Pro to consider all these differences and scale it up correctly while encoding the data. Okay, so that was pretty much everything about the video. Now we can go further to the audio settings. And as you guys can see here, this is like the optimal audio settings you can set up in Adobe Premiere Pro in order to match any camera you film with. So the audio codec must be AAC. The sample rate is 48,000 megahertz and the channels is stereo. Then the audio quality, of course, must be set to high. I mean, no reason to set it up to medium or low. Then the bit rate, since we're actually trying to export in a 4K quality or 4K environment, so the bit rate must be set to the highest possible value in order to keep up with the footage. And of course, as you guys can see, the highest possible value is 320. Then the last one here is the precedence, and you gotta check the bit rate, because if you guys remember, we were talking about compression, which was the CBR. So by checking the bit rate, we're telling Adobe Premiere Pro that while compressing the footage and the audio, try to maintain the highest possible quality based on the data input you're trying to encode. Alright, so now you're actually ready to hit export and start exporting your video. But before doing that, you can save a preset, because if you wanted to use the same settings on another video, you don't want to go from scratch again. So go to this button over here, click it, name it anything like custom settings or 4K export settings. I already had it here, as you guys can see, 4K export settings. So that's it. That was pretty much everything about how to export in 4K quality. Hope you guys liked it. And if you guys have any recommendations or any ideas, any effects, any videos you want me to analyze, please leave a comment down below. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel and follow me on Instagram in order to stay updated with my latest designs and videos. Thank you guys so much for watching, and see you next time.